Hey everyone, it's Jack, and welcome to my brand new project where I'm going to rank every single lip sync from US Drag Race. Yeah, you heard me right. Originally, I was going to do this for my 100k special, but school proved to be a lot for me to deal with while trying to take on a project of this size, so now that I've graduated, I don't think there's a better time to start this series. There are roughly 400 to 500 lip syncs that I will be talking about over the course of the next 12 months, and honestly, I'm really pumped. My goal is to be done with the series by the end of season 18, and probably the last video will be All Stars 11. After that, I will compile every video and upload a master list of the rankings with a complete final ranking of every lip sync at the very end, along with a ton of stats and a split counter just for fun. If you've ever seen an LS Mark video ranking every episode of a TV show, it's gonna work like that. From video to video, I will go through each season's lip syncs chronologically, giving my thoughts about each one and a number rating. At the end of that season, I'll show my list of how I ranked them and the season's average based off of my number rating. It makes it easier to follow along, especially for longer videos, and if someone wants to skip through and see a specific lip sync, it's a lot easier to do that when it's chronological as opposed to it being ranked at the start. For these earlier seasons, I'm going to break it up into 2 seasons per video, with the next video having seasons 3, 4, and All Stars 1 just because, All Stars 1 is like 6 episodes. I'm trying to be as efficient as possible, but as the seasons go on and they add more lip syncs, I may start to split them up 1 season per video, but I'm not sure yet. It's kind of like a play it by ear project with a good skeleton. I'm trying to get at least minimum 2 lip sync rankings out each month, but the more the merrier because there are 27 seasons to go through with so many lip syncs. If you want to support me on this huge project, I've just opened a Patreon which includes perks like your name at the end of a video and access to these rankings early. I would absolutely love if you supported me on Patreon, but even liking and subscribing here will tell me that this project is all worth it. That's about it for the intro. Again, make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. And without further ado, let's start all the way back with the first ever season.
Let the music play.
You better work.
The first ever lip sync with a very fitting choice, RuPaul's hit song, Supermodel. If episode 1 was framed as like a pilot pitching the show, I think this lip sync does its job well enough. I'm gonna try and keep the rankings as consistent as possible because it's easy to get carried away with the charm of the earlier seasons saying, oh, they just didn't know what they were doing back then. But just because it's charming, it doesn't mean that it's a quality lip sync. So even though we can laugh along at the growing pains, it definitely doesn't add to the number ranking. Akasha does a great job in this lip sync, with one of her strengths always being how in sync her lips are with the song. It's a very quality performance, especially since they had nothing to really base it on TV-wise. Porkchop unfortunately doesn't know the words to a lot of the song, so it's not as much of a battle as it could be for the first ever lip sync. The vibe these early lip syncs give off is like more of an afterthought than anything. The songs are short and the edit doesn't do a really good job showing who's pulling ahead in the lip sync. They didn't really know how to do that yet. It's not their fault, but in a giant ranking, it has to be considered. It's just about the most average a lip sync can get. One of the performers does good and the other one doesn't really know the words, so it's getting a 5 out of 10. If I had a nickel for every time Akasha faced an opponent who didn't know the words, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but by Drag Race standards, it's a little crazy. Porkchop knew the chorus for the most part and some of the verses, but it's clear she was trying to mask some of the parts that she didn't know with some dance moves. Tammy Brown proudly stood on that stage and chose not to perform, and you gotta love her for that. It is still very early on into the show, so even though they say at the start that you have to lip sync, maybe in some ways some of the performers thought that even if they don't know all the words, they can still perform decent enough to stay. But when you're going up against someone who knows all the words and has a good performance, it's not the case. I was gonna rate this one a decent amount lower than the last lip sync for Tammy not really giving anything, but Akasha was great in this lip sync and made Michelle Williams cry, and RuPaul praised her. It was definitely memorable for that alone and an early indicator of the potential of lip syncs, but there's still not much else to write home about this one. 5 out of 10 and going under Supermodel.
Akasha, you motherfucking broke the dawn.
I've talked about this lip sync to death and how much of a game changer it was for the show in a couple different ways. Like I said earlier, I don't know the exact way to describe how lip syncs were portrayed in the first 2 episodes other than calling them passive. We were watching the performance, but there were no real moving parts or momentum favored for either competitor. This is partially because Akasha didn't really have competition when she lip synced the first 2 times. This lip sync though, there is a lot going on. Chanel suffers a wardrobe malfunction with her headpiece falling off and exposing her boy hair. Pre-season 4, when a queen took their wig off, it was was a sign of vulnerability, and while Chanel's wasn't exactly a wig, it was still a piece of an overhaul costume that she used to craft a persona. For her to be able to adapt to being exposed and come out triumphant, it was a great story that won her the lip sync. Even if she has gone on record since to say that it wasn't as much of an accident as it looked, the story was too perfectly crafted, especially with how she was being portrayed on the show. She is the OG queen who is too professional and needs to open up. And when something goes wrong in her performance, but she can overcome that, it's just great storytelling. Chanel really was one of the first queens to go in and understand the entertainment industry and how a moment could look on TV. She set up the pins for the show to knock down, and people are still talking about this lip sync today for the impact it's had. And by people, I mean me. I talk about it a lot. Akasha also did a great job. She just didn't have a moment like Chanel's. They were pretty evenly matched. It's a great song choice. It's getting a 7 out of 10 and going to the top of the list. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all cheer for Jade, who has performed the first split in a lip sync on RuPaul's Drag Race. Woo! Yeah! Jade in this lip sync I think had a much better performance overall, feeling the energy of the song more. And based off of the edit, I definitely think Rebecca missed some of the words in there, and just from an outsider look, I think most people would choose Jade to win. She, however, did not win. My only guess without immediately looking at production meddling is that she was getting a little handsy with Rebecca, who in turn got handsy back, and then kind of pushed Jade onto the ground. It was the first lip sync that you could consider pretty messy, with Jade's wig falling off and the queens in the back kind of side-eyeing each other. All of it happens within a 10-second time span, so it went over my head the first couple times, but I think they were trying to convey that there was some awkwardness happening with Jade's wig falling off after they got physical. It's a strange lip sync with a pretty controversial result, but there's more going on than the first couple, so it's getting a 6 and it's going under the previous.
I have to excuse myself momentarily because this decision...
Another lip sync that I have spoken into the ground, we have BB versus Angina. This lip sync had serious ripple effects on the season and Drag Race as a whole. It was the first major upset we had ever seen on Drag Race, with Angina going home after getting 2 wins in the competition. And for RuPaul, it definitely wasn't an easy decision to send Angina home. She had to leave the desk at one point to go talk to the producers because they couldn't really do a double Shantae, but she didn't really know what to do. We have another instance of a queen taking off their wig to show themselves in their fight. I also love this clip of them zooming in on the wig. BB's performance holds up so much by today's standards, and it's the moment in my mind where she won the season. And another funny moment, the way the judges lean over the panel to watch her is so intense. Chanel's wardrobe malfunction, it was the first instance where they realized basically anything could happen in a lip sync. I truly think they started to take hold of that knowledge once it got to BB versus Angina. It was the first real toss-up battle, and they knew it. To me, BB will always be the winner though, the way she puts her entire body into the performance. I always come back to watch her in this lip sync. But with this ranking done, hopefully I can talk about this lip sync less because I do it so much. 8 out of 10, and it's shooting straight to the top of the list. It's a tough spot to be in following one of the best lip syncs of the season, and though I do enjoy the lip sync between Rebecca and Chanel, it definitely doesn't stack up as much. This is one of RuPaul's favorite songs, and it's a great song. It was just unfortunately performed by 2 queens with limited mobility in their dresses. I think they both had perfect energy, with Rebecca definitely nailing the lip sync the most, which allowed her to pull away with the win. It's another lip sync, however, that falls victim to a short runtime, so there isn't really much else to say. Aside from Chanel shaking her ass, causing Jeffrey Moran and Merle to clutch their pearls. Oh, how far we've come from that. 6 out of 10, and it's going below Jade versus Rebecca. We've made it to the end of season 1 with BB versus Nina to CoverGirl. Finale lip syncs on the main stage can be very hit or miss, with a lot of the earlier seasons producing more of the hits. The first 3 seasons were clearly helped by the fact that the queens were fighting for the crown on the spot, without the decision being based off of audience reception on an aired season. I guess I should explain if anyone is brand new to Drag Race and is just watching this for fun. At the end of the season, when they film the crownings, they film each person winning. The queens don't know who actually wins the season until it airs on TV. The reason they started to do this was because season 3's crowning was spoiled online before the season started airing. So now instead they film every single queen winning, so spoilers can't really get out. So for the first 3 seasons, that final lip sync was the end of production. So it really feels like these top 2 queens are fighting for that crown at the very end. The final lip sync between BB and Nina is so fun and a perfect cap off to the first season. BB has some of the most captivating eyes out of any queen I've seen on the show, and she uses them to the full capability, connecting with the judges. CoverGirl and Stronger are the only lip syncs from the season season that I don't think ever drop in energy, with this one building to the climax of BB using Nina's outfit against her and scooting through her legs. I don't talk about this lip sync nearly as much as BB versus Angina or Chanel versus Akasha, so every time I do go back to it, I'm reminded of how great it is. I truly wish they had more stage because I think we could have seen an all-timer lip sync if that was the case. But if that happened, I don't know if we would have gotten that final moment. It's endlessly rewatchable. BB won the season all over again in this lip sync. It's getting an 8.5 out of 10 and going at the top of the list. As we move into season 2, there are a couple things that are different about the season. It's basically an entire new set with a much bigger stage for the queens to perform on. And there's also stairs that lead down to the judges panel, which is pretty important for this season. But the bigger thing that we need to talk about is that there are a couple queens on this season that need to be addressed. Anytime that this sign pops up on the screen, you know that I will be talking about a figure within the space that is controversial, and any comments will be kept to a minimum. It's impossible to do a definitive ranking video and avoid these figures, so it's my best course of action. What I'll say about Shangela is that she did turn up the energy and gave Sahara a run for her money, but Sahara saw the challenge and kicked it into overdrive, doing one of the highest jump splits we've seen on the show. I won't lie though, this lip sync is an absolute mess to follow, with Kylie putting it perfectly, calling it Mortal Kombat. The moves that were pulled out in this lip sync perfectly matched someone just mashing a controller with no idea what they're doing, having the queens teleport across the stage and having the song cut at very random times. I understand needing to do it for a song that's licensed, but this is CoverGirl by RuPaul. My only guess is that they were pressed for time in the episode, because there should be no other reason why this performance and lip sync are so short. The song that is being performed is by the host of the show. I think they could use as much of it as they want, but they just didn't. It feels like we got the highlights as they tried to edit around YouTube copyright, you know, like what I do. Even if it was messy, it was the first lip sync on the new main stage that allowed the queens much more room to perform, so better than the last season's premiere. It's getting a 5.5 out of 10. I love that I waited long enough to do this project for Nicole Paige Brooks from Atlanta, Georgia to be back on All Stars. It just sucks that she was completely demolished by Raven in this lip sync on her original season. This is easily Raven's best performance on the show through her tight lip sync and her memorable moves. The big one being when she pointed at everyone saying that they were never gonna get it, and also pulling out her bra pad to dab the sweat off her face. She was having the most fun here, and it translated really well into the lip sync. Rue knew Raven before the show, but I think this is where she really fell in love with her as a TV performer. Lovely lip sync, 6.5 out of 10. It's going above the last.
Nicole's gone. Praise the Lord.
Another Raven lip sync, and unfortunately another really poorly aged one editing wise. Half of the lip sync is taken up by confessionals with a lot of weird cuts, and there's a lot of confusing choices to where you don't really know who's gonna take it in the end. And it's not in the sense that it was a neck and neck race and it could go to either person, it was more so because it was hard to follow because the song didn't really align with what they were lip syncing. Drag Race has a classic edit during a lip sync when they want to put a confessional over it. The music will fade out, the confessional will come in, but even as the confessional is going, you can faintly hear the music in the background and see that it's still in sync with what the performers are doing. But for this performance, the song is not in line with what is happening in the lip sync.
I was gonna duke it out. I don't care if the wig flew off. I don't care if I broke a heel. At that point, it was do or die because I was not gonna go home.
It looks like Mystique doesn't know the words, but I don't know what to believe because of the amount of cuts. Mystique does a fun little titty punch, and Raven has some cute moments showing off her back door, but it's really not good, mostly because of the edit. 3 out of 10, almost bumped it up a point for Mystique's iconic outfit, but no, it's going at the bottom of the list. One of the early lip syncs that caused the snowball effect into double chantés, Two of Hearts stands the test of time as a really quality lip sync. Putting myself in the shoes of a viewer back in 2010, I would think that this is the best lip sync of the show, based entirely off of novelty alone of what we've seen up to that point. Like Rue says, Morgan lip sync is one of the most precise we've seen on the show, and Kylie was flipping all over the place. If you didn't know, she was like 9 months pregnant with Maya Mon LePage here. I could not imagine someone trying to pull off what Kylie did on season 1's stage, and very few have done flips like that since. They do push the anti-gymnastics agenda at the end of the performance, which I do agree with for the most part. Morgan had the perfect vibe for what the song was asking for, and I completely agree with her saying if only one of them could. Kylie also had the first outfit reveal of the show with the matching bra and panty underneath her outfit. This lip sync is agreed upon to be one of the best of the earlier seasons, and I'm gonna go along with that opinion for sure. 8 out of 10 going at the top of the list. Not to jump ahead, but we're gonna have back-to-back-to-back banger lip syncs in a row. Morgan vs. Sahara is criminally underrated, and it's especially to do with Sahara's performance in particular. A lot of people remember that Sahara was the queen to first jump off the stage, but I don't think a lot of people remember that this was the lip sync where she does it. And that jump split is as great today as it was 15 years ago. You can see how unexpected it was because the camera operators did not track her jump properly, causing the editors to have to do some cuts. And it's the first time we saw a queen leave the stage, which is now a rule that they can't do. The way she dances in front of the panel on point, causing RuPaul to go up, it's a powerful visual. And Morgan by no means had a bad performance, putting her heart into everything she was doing, but Sahara stole the show and a lot of the attention was put on her. Sahara is missed so dearly, and going back to watch these performances reminds me of her talent and her legacy. 8 out of 10, going right under the previous. We have another great performance, and it's the start of Jujubee's lip sync domination. It is one of the most notoriously good / bad performances on the show. For those who don't know, Juju was extremely drunk during this lip sync because of the alcoholic drinks they were served in the behind the scenes show called Untucked. Since then, production has started to water down the drinks in order to get the queens to still speak their mind, but not have them completely hammered. It fortunately added to the vibe of the song, asking for a much more sultry performance rather than Sahara's beautiful yet out of place ballet moves. Still, there are some crazy cuts in this lip sync, and they're not really even trying to do continuity. I've watched this one a lot for various videos, and it's interesting to see how they cut the two choruses together for Juju. They're constantly cutting back and forth between the more whitish yellow lights to the purple lights. It's a strange choice, but it's potentially down to them not getting the best shots for either, so they had to Frankenstein them together. Even if the edit is really distracting for me, the performers still shine through, and Juju makes this one super rewatchable. 8 out of 10, 3 in a row, and it's going right under Sahara and Morgan. Jessica vs. Tatiana is a lip sync that is good, but not very notable. I think it's pretty underrated as a lip sync, especially with Tatiana's reaction at the end when she's shocked that she won. I think it's just unfortunately plopped between 3 of the best lip syncs of the season and then Juju's domination right after. Jessica had an infectious energy, but definitely did not catch all the words and was doing slightly too much for what the song was giving. I do love it when she works the camera on the side of the stage because we don't really see that often. Tatiana was getting all the words, and her outfit with her long legs was the perfect vibe for the song. I forgot how great this song is, and I would love to see it come back at some point soon. It's getting to 6, and it's going under Raven and Nicole. We're back to Jujubee with Shake Your Love. I really don't remember much of what Pandora does in this lip sync, which is unfortunate because it does seem like a song that should be up her alley. Juju just has this smile that lights up a room, and whenever she can sell it in a lip sync, my eyes will only be on her. This performance is most remembered by her playing the air keyboard, which will always be funny. She can do sensual, she can do comedy, there's a reason why she's one of the most consistent lip syncers of Drag Race. 6.5 out of 10, and it's going right below Raven vs. Nicole. Juju once again shows her insane talent for lip syncs with a performance to a pretty difficult Aretha Franklin song. Tatiana says it herself that the way that Aretha sings makes the song hard to catch all the words, so it makes what Juju did that much more impressive. I just feel classic drag anytime I watch this performance, both from the vibe of the song and how Juju performs it. She's able to bring comedic moments into the lip sync, causing Tatiana to break at one point, yet she doesn't have to sacrifice any earnestness when she adds the comedy in. It's a balanced performance, and I really appreciate it, even if there isn't a lot to say and I can't rank it the highest on the list. 6 out of 10 going under Jessica vs. Tatiana. We got another controversial figure on our hands with Tyra. Once again, comments will be kept to a minimum. She had the better performance of the two, doing just about everything correct that she could in the lip sync. Going directly up to the judges, like I said, those stares would be important. Using her outfit to her advantage, her energy was up, it was a great performance. Raven unfortunately had laps run around her in this lip sync. I don't think there was a world where Tyra wasn't winning this season, but if there needed to be more of a reason, this final lip sync was won by her in a landslide. 7.5 out of 10 going under Juju vs. Sahara. Season 1 and 2 are both hard and easy to judge depending on what you're looking for. If I'm enjoying a performance but it's cut poorly by the edit, it affects the ranking. But I can dunk on a bad lip sync even more if the edit is bad. They were getting the hang of it by the end of season 2, with the final lip sync being a great example. Hopefully as the seasons go on, we get more and more consistent lip syncs. At least editing wise, because I know the first lip sync of the next season and it's a contender for the worst of all time. Did you agree with my ranking? Did you disagree? Let me know how you would rank them in the comments below. Once again, you can support me over on Patreon or just by liking and subscribing. The next video will be seasons 3, 4, and All Stars 1 because that season's so short. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon with another video.
I have one thing to say. You better work.